I am often asked, what is a positive leader? I don't really have an answer to that question, though. The fact is that most of the people that I know, and they all think that they are positive. Most people think of themselves they are positive. And if that is the case, if some of these people are in position of leadership, they think of themselves as positive leaders also. But if you think about it, this doesn't really match, because most people thinking that they are positive, but if you look at the reality of life, in the economic and the social and the political scene, you will see there's a lot of issues going on which are not that really positive. So how is that you have people thinking, most people thinking that they are positive, and you have or objective reality with such a huge deficits? Thinking about this, I recently have a situation with a colleague of mine. We were teaching together a class, and I was explaining something to the students, and one of the students became quite rude with me. And, I just simply took his comments, and I didn't really pay too much attention to them. But after the class, my colleague came to me and told me, "Oh, Juan, I felt so sorry for you. This guy was so incredibly rude, and I felt for you. And I told her, look, when we are explaining or we are exposing ideas which are a little bit controversial, a little bit different from what most people are used to, some people react that way because you are in fact shaking the belief system, right? So I am used to that. I don't really pay too much attention to that, and I have a kind of a thick skin. But on the other hand, you seems to be affected, and said, yes, I felt bad and I felt sorry for you, And I said, oh, quite interesting then. If you felt sorry for me, why do you intervene? You could have said something. And then she didn't say anything to me. She just looked at me, and then she shut up and she didn't say anything. Well, after that, in the evening, I received a long email from her. She was apologizing for not being more assertive or having said anything in the class, right? And then reflecting on that situation, all of a sudden it came to me that maybe this is what is happening really, which is, yeah, most people are in fact positive, that is a reality, but they don't really act positive, And obviously the question is, why is that people don't act positively, if they are thinking positively, And that kind of remembered me a situation when I was a student, and I remember asking one of my professors, why is that we come to this class and you force us to participate, and you even tell us that 50% of the grade is class participation, right? So most of us, some of us, we are foreigners, we don't speak the language like the Native Americans, right? This is the States. And the professor gave me an answer that I think that was also very compatible with what we are discussing here. He said to me, well, what is the value of having good ideas in your head if you don't communicate it? You need to communicate the ideas for them to have value. And this is what we teach you here in Harvard, to communicate your ideas, right? And then I thought, thinking about this situation, this seems to be the key of the issue, right? People really do have good ideas, they're positive ideas, they are compassionate about it. So now the question is, what is that impede people to act under positive ideas, right? And I kind of see three issues here, or three conditions that seem to me impede people to really, behave according to the positive ideas, right? One is apathy. Apathy is a issue or a condition that is a little bit tricky, because you cannot even argue that if you are an apathic person, right, you don't even have positive thoughts, right? So you might even argue that you are not a positive person, right? In fact, one professor, Professor DeBris from MBSAT Business School, he tends to define this type of individuals as a kind of apathy or as light psychopaths. So people who lack some empathy, they are not able to feel for the other one, right? So that will be one condition. The second condition, seems to me, has to do with self-interest. Most people, a lot of people also, especially in this type of environment, they tend to behave with a kind of a cost-benefit mentality, you want to call it that way. So they kind of always are calculating what are the benefits that I will receive if I were to do that, and what are the costs, right? And in most cases, where you will need to be or to act positively in front of a difficult situation, it's very difficult to calculate the cost or the benefits, And given that situation, just what self-interest people will do, you simply don't act. I will not take part of this, right? So that will be the second condition. And the third condition, I think, is plain and simple fear. Fear of acting. Fear of acting your ideas. Fear of acting your compassion, right? And from that point of view, this is a very primal behavior, right? Because if you look at the very primitive animals, right, when they are in front of fear, the strategy that they use to manage that situation is just paralyzed. They even, some of them even, simulate death. They are paralyzed. They don't move, right? So these three conditions, apathy, self-interest, and fear, seems to me are some of the conditions that impede people to act on the positive thoughts or ideas, right? Now, having said that, the next step will be, can we train for that, right? Because what we're missing here, obviously, is courage. The idea that you just simply act on your thoughts and ideas, right? So the question will be then, can we train for courage, right? And I think courage is trainable, there are many different ways of training for courage. You can train courage by doing crazy things, some crazy things that I do sometimes, right? Like moving into a boxing ring with a champion, knowing already that you will never make it, in terms of winning, But you just go into the ring with the champion just to train for that, for courage and for fear, how you can conquer fear, right? So I do sometimes that. But there are less extreme approaches, right? And one of the approaches that I also like is mindfulness. And more specifically, mindfulness-based strategic awareness training, MBSAT. I think MBSAT, it can help us to train three key abilities among others, right? One is an ability that it can be defined as managing your beta. What I mean by this is the ability to recognize, right, your body sensations, your emotions, your thoughts, and your actions impulses. And once you recognize those elements, which the acronym means beta, then you can kind of design or willingly create stages where you can regulate that elements of your your personality. So that will be one piece, managing and regulating your beta, right? A second element, or a second condition that I think that you can train with MBSAT is an attitude that I call irimi, an irimi attitude. What I mean by this is, in Japanese martial art, in Aikido, the Japanese martial art, there is this approach called irimi, which means when you are in front of an attacker or a difficult situation, what you do is you move into the sphere of that attacker, right? And what you do with that, is you neutralize the force and the strain of the attacker, right? And that allows you to gain some space, right? And time, if you want, to respond in a more skillful way. So that will be the second piece, right? The second piece will be, again, an irimi attitude. And the third piece, which also is important, is what I call creating out of this managing your beta and an attitude of irimi, you create then what I like to call mindfulness or mindful real actions. It means that having pause with these elements, you then create the possibility of seeing more skillful what are the options that you have to respond with positive actions, right? And those three skills together allow you to connect the two things then. For one hand, on the one hand is your thoughts, like everyone thinks they have positive thought, and that's it. Maybe the truth. Most people are positive. That's a fact. And connect with positive actions, this is the piece which is more rare, right? If we can connect those two elements, positive thoughts and ideas with positive action, I think then we are in front of a person that we can call a positive individual or a positive leader.